Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, man. No worries.
Um, when Jalen and I were talking about having a guest on the pod, you were the first person that
First
came
one.
to mind. Um, I feel like you quickly became a friend of mine early on here in my time in Columbus. You just have such a warm and inviting energy, and that's what I get from you. You're just genuine, and we've
Thank you.
seen you operate as both an actor and a director.
Yes. Yes.
And but I kind of want to toss it to you. That's what I get from you. But like, if you had to distill your essence, like who Alan Tyson is, like in a couple words, like what would you like people to say?
I mean, that's such a tough question to me. I think it's because I'm not dead yet. So it's such a interesting question. So I mean, for me, I would like to leave this earth if I were to die today and people were to say this was Alan Tyson, um, that he led with his heart. He had faith. He loved God most than anything. But really that he led with his heart and his mind, and that he created life, but really that he sought connection and he sought real life, and something more. And he made the impossible possible. Something like that. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
This idea of leading with your heart, is that something that kind of has always persisted throughout your life, or is that something that sort of came later in life, something you had to learn?
I think I had to learn the authenticity of leading with my heart. Because I would say in the beginning, yeah, I thought I was leading with my heart. I thought that I was doing the right thing early on in my life. But then once I moved to New York, and I went through a lot of stuff. I suffered out there. I did a lot. And then when I came back here was when I really went on my own personal journey to find myself and to love myself. And then once I really started to love myself was when I could lead with my heart, because then I knew what my heart was. It wasn't clouded. It wasn't blacked out by all the anger, the hate that I had, the resentments that I had. And once I could clear that all out, then I could lead with it strongly and honestly, because now I can be honest with myself. So now I can be honest with other people. And that is when so when I got back here like 5.5 years ago, that is when everything changed. And I was connected to the earth. I was connected to myself. I was connected to the spirit. And that's when my acting, my directing, everything started just like taking off.
Can I ask, you said so once you got back here to
Mhm.
Columbus, that's when things became more clear.
Yeah.
Was it something about Columbus or was it
Oh no.
what was it? Yeah.
It was about Columbus, trust me.
Okay.
No, I shouldn't say that. Columbus is like it's very different than it was 20 years ago when I was growing up here. But I would say it was just that personal journey. I think it's that journey that we all have to go on after school, after we grow up. Some are fortunate they can go on it when they're in high school or something. But for me, I didn't go on until I was 31. So it's just that journey of finding myself and truly walking into what I guess your manhood. You see it always in plays or in movies, that hero's journey. And I like to think about it like that. So like I just found myself in this journey of like, who am I without acting? Who am I without like money or without things, without material things? And then when I found myself, that's when everything just started clicking and staying in place.
Yeah. I like that point because it kind of reminds me of like where I'm at right now because I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas. I went to undergrad in New Orleans for 4 years. But when I was applying to graduate school, I had an option to go to University of Houston back home or go to Ohio State here in Columbus. And I'm like, I don't know a single person in Columbus. It's literally 1,000 miles away from Houston. But I want to make that jump and see how much I can grow with being away from home. So I'm a believer that once you leave home, you grow because you kind of have to. You don't have people there, babying you and supporting you too much. So, so when I came out here, I've grown a lot in the last 2 going on 3 years, and I'm finding myself more and more as a man, as an artist, and I'm just looking forward to continuing that journey. Really,
I think it'll be interesting to see what you do outside of school, though,
Yeah,
because
for
school, I
sure.
believe, is a safe haven because they give you everything.
Hmm.
Well, they should. I mean, I don't know, but usually, like at my school, they gave us everything. They gave us all the tools. They gave us the places to rehearse. They gave us all the information necessary, but then they sent us out on our way. But then, like, were those tools available out there? No.
Mm.
So you have to be able to find um, how to make all the tools that you've learned work out there in the real world. And so you don't take everything because you don't need everything.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point you bring up because we're nearing the end of our time here at school. And so you do kind of leave that bubble. And it's sort of, I think a lot of us are about to figure out a lot of things about ourselves,
Hmm.
right? And what mental fortitude looks like, going back out into the world and just um, if we're willing to try these tools time and time again, because I feel like I feel like we are set up to sustain ourselves as independent artists, not just as actors, but just as creative people in general. But it's all about that drive, that want, and I think to your point, sometimes you got to go on that journey, have that dark night of the soul, right? That's the
Exactly.
rock bottom of the hero's
Exactly.
journey.
Right.
Um,
But
to kind
also,
of,
you have to have each other.
For sure.
Like,
yes,
the one thing I regret about my college experience is that I don't have a close relationship with my college peers because I was more so out there like, oh, I don't need them.
Mm.
And that was definitely a different, that's not the right thinking because my thinking was all egoic and like, I don't, like, I'll make it without them. But I think it's really about your tribe and who you call your friend group and then making art together.
Important.
Because I see now that the people that are doing that are out there making movies right now, are out there doing the things that they really love, but they're doing it together. And so you have more worth that way. I think I don't know about worth, but you have more success that way because you cannot do this alone.
absolutely. Yeah, it's an iron sharpens iron thing. I
Mhm.
mean, even I think something we learned was even in a solo show process, it is not truly a solo
No.
show. So much goes into that, and we spent an all-nighter in the space working
Mhm.
on each other's shows,
Wow.
and it's that iron sharpens iron approach, and it's also a wonderful form of accountability, which you need not just as a creative, but just in life, someone to make sure you're staying on the
For
path
sure.
that you need to. Yeah, I think strength comes in numbers, to your
Hmm.
point. And I had a very similar experience in my undergrad. I think when you lead with ego and not with heart, the only road it's really going to lead you down is disappointment. You might
Right.
find that short-term success, right?
Mhm.
Because raw talent is undeniable, but at the end of the day, people can pick up on that unsaid energy that this is a selfish
Right.
individual.
Mhm.
And it's not me saying that you were a
Oh
selfish
no, no, no!
individual.
I was very selfish
Yeah,
back in the day, and I had to just change my perspective and my reality about that.
I like that notion of changing the reality. Yeah.
Mhm.
Have you had any moments of that where you've had to like shift your reality or shift your thinking a little bit?
Yeah, I felt like oftentimes I had to like push myself like really, really, really hard because I felt like okay, especially coming here, 'cause I was like, okay, I'm a black man, I'm the only person of color in this program, so I have to work twice as hard as everyone else. And like I still kind of believe that, but also I had to get rid of the notion that I have to prove something to somebody. Once I was like, okay, I'm here, they accepted me here, everyone here supports me. Let me just work
Mhm.
and not have this conscious thing in my mind of like, okay, I got to work harder than everybody else. I got to prove that I'm supposed to be here. And once I let go of that, I felt so much more freedom within my personal life and in me as an artist that it just allowed me to just work so much better, and it feels great.
I think to your point of like, do I have something to prove or not? I don't know if you remember this. When we first got here, I think it might have been our very first acting
Mm,
class. And our head of acting here, Kevin, he wrote like on a chalkboard because we were in the old building. We had
mm,
chalkboards over there.
mm,
And he wrote on this chalkboard, "You have nothing to prove."
mm,
He was like, "You're here. You have nothing to prove."
mm,
And I thought that was so interesting. And at that time, I needed some reality shifting because I immediately took that and I was like, "Oh, this is a mind trick." Like I thought it was like, "Oh, he wants us to get comfortable and then we get complacent." Like I was trying to think ahead, but I think there's something to when you book a role. or when you get an opportunity, it's like you earn that already.
Mhm.
So just show up and keep doing what you're doing.
So if that is the case, so do you think you have to prove something in an audition?
Wow, great question. I think you have to prove that you are who you say you are or who you present yourself to be.
Yeah, I see that.
But I don't know that you necessarily have to prove something to strangers behind a table, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um,
I think it's also important to showcase. I mean, I know we're talking about just the audition aspect, but like that you are a reliable person who also can have a good work ethic and things like that. Because you can have the talent and the skill, but if your work ethic isn't there, or you're not reliable, or selfish, or things like that, it could just ruin the whole process for you and things like that. So,
Right? I mean, I think, well, that will come with your reputation, I think, as well. But also, I think with the proving in the audition, I understand that many people think they need to come into an audition and like they need to nail it.
mhm,
And yeah, in a sense, in your mindset, because we're the actors, and so we're going in front of a group of people that we don't know. But really, I believe that every role is meant for that person. So
mhm,
if someone comes into the room and I'm sitting behind a desk in that role and they knock it out of the park, but I think that role was meant for them. And so someone in college, a guest artist, we were doing Kid Champion, and the guest artist was saying that every every role is meant for you. So like not every role, but like there's certain roles that are meant for you. And so that cannot be taken away. And so you will be there at that certain moment in that certain time, and then you will see that, and then it will all connect, and you will book that role because it was meant for you at that certain time in your life.
mhm.
And so I believe that as long as I go into a room and do the best job that I can, and I have fun and do it, then even if I don't book it, but they saw my work, that's all I need. And then either they may call me back later on, they might do something later on, or if I book it, I book it. So in that saying, in the sense of proving yourself, I don't think we have to ever prove ourselves as long as we do the work. If I'm doing the work and I'm having fun with the work, that's all. Let's go in and say, well, I don't know if I can cuss from here, but there was a teacher, Laura Henry, who's an amazing teacher, who told us just say fuck it at the door and just say fuck it
Mhm.
and go.
Go
And
big or
that
go home.
really just releases so much. I like say fuck it and I give a prayer to God, but then I say fuck it. And then it just releases so much anxiety, releases so much proof that I have to prove anything. Because it's just like I just want to have fun. I just want to create. And that's what I go in the room with.
I go in there with that mindset of like go big or go home.
Exactly.
And after that, it's okay.
Yeah.
Go give yourself some dinner,
Right?
make some
I do
cookies.
milkshakes.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's my
love that.
Look forward to something after the audition so it won't be like the only thing on your mind for that day.
exactly.
Yeah, I think we've done a lot of shifting in our mindset on this where you never want to go into an audition with a neediness, right? Maybe you
Right.
do really want that job, but sometimes that neediness is just as perceivable as
Hmm.
ego.
Yeah.
And we were speaking to an actor um, in class. His name was Joe Holt, and he was saying, I do 2 to 3 self tapes, and that's it. That's it. Because I remember being a younger performer, perfectionist, and you'd be doing a self tape for an hour.
Hmm.
Just prepare, go in, do what you need to do, call it a day.
Right.
I've just had to get more comfortable with that idea. And I found that I have a lot more fun in those 2 to 3 takes, right? It's
Right.
like, okay, I do a take. This is what I think it is. Let me shake it up a little bit, maybe drop in some tools. All right, cool. Maybe marry the two of those. And then, you know, it's just discretion at that point.
I think self tapes though are like I do get caught in the trap of doing too many takes for self tapes
Mm,
because I'm a perfectionist, and especially when I'm by myself because I'm like, oh, but I don't have another person like the oh, was that good, was that great,
Mhm.
and so I have to like do like 10 different ones, and then I weed them down. Um, But I'm very bad at it, so that's something I have to work on. But when I go to my agent's office and do the tape, it's like or two, and I'm done. And she's like, oh, great. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
there is a magic to being in the room.
Hmm. Exactly.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Um, Yeah, we just did a mock cattle call audition the other day, which I haven't been to a cattle call audition in a minute. So
It
doing
was
a
pretty
mock
fun
one,
though.
it was an interesting experience just simulating that again.
Uh-huh.
And that was my first time doing one like that, so it was really fun.
Yeah,
And
I'll
we were
be
readers for each other, and yeah, it was great.
yeah, it was a wild experience, but just there is less of a burden, I think, when you have somebody in the room, even if you don't get the reaction that you want, just having another human, right?
Mhm.
It's that authenticity thing.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So something, for those who are at home watching who don't really know Ellen Tyson, or at least how you got to where you are today. What's the story of how you got into acting and directing? Were you a little kid watching TV and was like, I want to do that, or did you go see a play one day? Like, what
I love
was?
you guys like say my whole name like
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
all.
Hey,
feeding my ego right now.
I always had a professor, right? And this is one of my professors from undergrad. I didn't agree with her on most things, I'll be honest, but she did say one thing that's always stuck with me. She said, "You want your name to be in lights one day, so that first and last name equal emphasis."
Hmm.
And I always thought there was something to
That's
that.
cool. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. All right. So, story of my life. Story of my life. Um, so no, I started acting when I was 9. But I've always been a fan of like Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson. Michael Jackson was my first ever like fan. Remember watching the Dangerous World Tour on HBO when they used to do the live concerts, not live concerts, but when they used to play the concerts. And I was always performing. I was always dancing in my living room. I was always like I had my brothers be like the backup dancers or I would perform Power Rangers
Mm,
for people. But 9 years old, I did my first commercial. Um, it was for Franklin County Children's Adoption Agency, I think is what it's
nice.
called. And so at that point, that was when it really started taking off.
Mm,
I got agents, which was Cam Talent here. I was in like a lot of CCT shows from Ron Quimby, Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And it just really, I just kept getting booking and kept getting things, and I kept getting commercials. I kept getting these like model ads from Cam Talent, and so I was like, oh, okay. So that's when all sports stopped, and I just focused strictly on acting. And my parents were like taking me to auditions. My parents were taking me to rehearsals, and then just everything just started connecting though.
mm,
And so high school was dang. I went to COS, which was like a academic school, but then also Fort Hayes Black Box, which is a vocational theater school. So Steve Black, who was my teacher at that time, and he really lifted me up. And I was acting there. I actually directed a few things in that thing too, because it was like
nice.
because you go for half a day from 12 to 4 or something like that, or 12 to 3:30, whatever. And you would just act. And then I went to school for it, North Carolina School of the Arts. 4 years there, just an arts conservatory, straight acting. I mean, I guess we had academics from 8 to 10, but they were
Mm,
like 30-minute classes. I think they just were filling time. But then from like 11 to like 11 at night, you're just acting. You're doing acting classes, you're doing mask work, you're doing circus stuff, you're doing I guess other like Stella Adler stuff. You're doing like they have little classes for everything, directing stuff as well. And then I graduated from college and I moved straight to New York and I just start I do it. I do it like hard for like 5 years, but then I got a little too much into like the nightlife. I got into my job because I was managing hotels and I was like, well, this is bringing in more money than acting. So I got to make sure I focus on that so I can pay my rent because I
mm,
definitely didn't want to be sleeping on people's
yeah,
couches.
you're right.
And some people do that though, and not to knock it. They're very famous now, and they really made it, and so that's great for them. But it just wasn't my journey. I knew I didn't want to slum it, but also, again, at that time, I was very egoic. I was very selfish because of my past. Like I always got what I wanted, and so I never really had to. I never needed for anything, and so I
Mm,
didn't know that world of like sleeping on people's couches and doing stuff until it started happening. And then I came back here, um, and finding myself again going through that journey of like, okay, who am I really without all this stuff, without acting? Who am I really without money? Who am I really without? And it's just me. When I look in the mirror, I just see me. And so when I found myself, that's when I was like, okay, I can get back into acting because I thought it was all about acting. But it's really not for me anymore. It's really now, since I found myself, it's really now more about creating life and connection on stage and having people connected to the art and connected to the feelings that we all feel when we see something that means something to us.
Yeah,
And hope that was a
it was.
nutshell.
It was.
Yeah, so would you say that time in New York, I feel like there's always a time in the life of an artist where the awareness of oneself becomes hyper present, and maybe you start acknowledging these parts of yourself as a human that you need to work on. And would you say that hyper awareness sort of came for the first time in New York, or did it come throughout different stages?
Um, I think it came in different stages. So when I did Gem of the Ocean in college with Michelle Shea, um, she really is a very spiritual person. She really was trying to work with us, and like connecting us to our bodies, connecting us to the spirit realm, because all our ancestors are a part of this. You know, especially with August Wilson. If you really invite all the ancestors to this work, which I now do with everything that I do,
Nice.
um, it's just such you can feel the spirits guiding you through the show and through the play. So that really elevated me to understand my blackness in this world. Because at first I did not, I was really like, this is gonna probably be bad, but I really did not like being black. I did not like being me growing up. And so but also, I hung out with so many white people in my life, especially since I was in the arts here. And here, 20 years ago, the arts was all white. It was, you never saw a black person. And so I didn't really know that well. So my brothers, on the other hand, they went to schools with sports, they went to schools with all black people. So they had a very different conception of their life. While me, I remember telling my mom, racism doesn't exist anymore, mom. My mom was like, no, no, it does. Like, stop, Alan. And I just remember that because she like really she got so serious about it. And I was like, whatever, mom. And so with that, that was Jim of the Ocean was the awakening of like, oh, I am black. But it wasn't like the big awakening. It was just like a little spiritual experience that like God was trying to be like, hey, let's wake up now. And then I got to New York and, you know, I was really more running towards being gay than anything. I ran away from being black. I ran away from being like, I mean, I just wanted to be gay. Let's do gay things and do everything being gay. And although that experience is great and I loved it, it was fun, it still wasn't who I was underneath it all. And that's how I got lost out there in New York because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was without being gay. I didn't know who I was without being black. I didn't know who I was without like my mom or my dad or my family near me. And so that journey really lost me until I came back here to find out who I was without being gay, find out who I was before being black. Well, not before, because you know, but like doing that is when I really started to wake up and see myself.
So would you say whenever you found yourself more that allowed you to start, were you creating work like writing plays and things
Mhm.
like that beforehand?
Oh yeah, it
And
was.
then is it different then than it was now?
Um, It wasn't, I think it's deeper now.
Okay.
There's a deeper connection now to
Mhm.
my work. Before, my mom always says, because she was like, Alan, before you still were a good actor. There's nothing different now other than maybe you're just thinking deeply more about it. But I think is a difference. I think before it was more surface level stuff. Before was more like, oh, we're only going to touch on like, oh, parents hate kids, blah, blah,
I see.
blah.
I see.
Instead of like, what about the hate that kids feel about the parents or some of that nature. And so it was just, I would say beforehand, I was just doing so surface level, but now I'm like getting underneath it and finding out like the true root problems of like these characters that I'm creating.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
there a recent role or experience that is a good representative example of that kind of work?
I think Skeleton Crew
Yeah.
was probably the best recent experience of that work, where I played Reggie, and his need to um, what is it called when you try to get approved by the white people upstairs, but then you don't connect or support the black people downstairs in the factory. And so like that connection to that was me. Like
Interesting.
it was me in college, it was me in high school because I wanted that approval, thank you, approval of the upstairs so badly, who I thought were all white people, that I just let the black people go.
Mhm.
And so in doing that, I let my soul go. I lost who I was. And so in that, Reggie lost who he was because he wanted the approval of people that didn't even care about him. And so it's such an interesting dynamic to see that. And I think it's true. Art imitates life so badly. And so when you can find those connections in your art, especially from your real life experiences, then the authenticity comes out, I think, amazingly.
And that goes to your whole point of just leading with your heart.
Hmm.
And so, as somebody who we've seen oscillate between acting and directing, what are some qualities as a director you try to bring to the space to get that out of your performance?
Mhm.
Well, first off, gratitude. I think gratitude is very important when we walk into the door. I try to, before every rehearsal, it hasn't been actually great with one rehearsal I had because we're so busy. But all the other shows I've directed, I always start with gratitude. I always ask, what are we grateful for? They always also ask a question that pertains to like the show so we can think about it. But really, gratitude is the number one thing that I think connects people more so than anything. And it also changes our perspective about being in the room. Because when I can think of something that I'm grateful for before a show, then that means I can leave the things outside and be like, okay, I'm grateful to be in this room in this moment right now. And then I can start working. Because as long as we're present and available in this moment and we're not thinking about, oh, I have something going on out there, then I can really use you. Or really, in my sense, God can use you in order to be a vessel, in order to connect.
Nice. Um, can we talk about any type of film experience you have compared to theater, and then how those contrast with you? Like, what do you prefer more, and things like that?
Um, I don't know if I for anything more. I do want to do more film, and I do have film experience.
Like,
I definitely want to get into movies,
mm,
more movies, but like bigger movies. I've done a lot of what is it called? I've done a lot of films like here set in Ohio, or
mm,
like horror films and everything of that nature.
nice.
But I don't know. I think it's just they're different mediums. There's nothing different about the acting. I don't think. I mean, obviously it's more subtle and everything, but I don't think there's nothing. There's you just have to know where the camera is and how it's looking at you and how what your frame is. But no, I mean, I think I definitely want to do more film, but I don't know other mediums or anything.
Would you like to be on a real nice TV series?
Oh, you're talking about okay. I think yes, I would. I mean, I'm not. I would never turn it
I
down.
think you'd be a great
Like,
character.
really? I would never turn down a TV series. I would never turn down anything now. I used to say I would always turn down stuff. I would always I mean, not to, I love you, Tyler Perry, but I would always say like I would never be in a Tyler Perry show. But now being in my life in this moment now, I understand his business. I understand he caters to a certain crowd.
Mhm.
And I understand what he is doing, and I actually really appreciate it. Even though I don't think the level of his work is as elevated as like Lee Daniels,
Mm.
but I still think that I understand it and I actually appreciate it.
Sure.
Now, I would never turn it down though. I would, yeah, I'll be if he was like, "Al, I need you in this role in Atlanta right now." I'm
You're
there.
going for it.
Of course, because I mean, because listen, he's giving work to black actors. He's giving work to people who need it, and it's consistent. It's always consistent for him, no matter what.
Yeah. I can see you doing something real good on like How to Get Away with Murder.
Hmm. I
You'd
would
be a
love
good
to do
character in
something.
that one.
Listen, I would do it in a heartbeat.
That'd be really nice.
Do you find that there's, I know you said it's sort of a limited range of work, a lot of independent stuff here in Ohio with the film work. Because I feel like as actors, we're always getting asked that question, stage or film, and I love different things about both. And I feel like with theater, you are sharing a human experience with other humans in the room, but with film, not so much. You don't get that gratification, that approval in the moment. And is that something that you've consciously thought about, or like
I mean, I don't agree with that though.
you don't agree? Okay,
I think you have a human experience with film.
okay.
I just think it's up to the director and the way it's shot to
Mm.
give you that human experience. But now, if you're talking about in that moment, right there, right then.
Yeah.
then I mean, yeah, but you have the crew to give you that human experience. So you can just look at the crew and see how they're affected by it.
Mhm.
You can look at other people around you and see how they are affected by it. I think that every art way of what where we do art can give you that human experience. I think I just don't want to limit myself anymore. I used to limit myself like, oh, I will only do theater. I'll only do like Shakespeare. Like, well, no, because then I limit myself, and I want as many possibilities. I want many doors open to myself that I can share art, that I can share connection with the world. I can't like limiting myself. It's so interesting because in college they were trying to limit us like because they put you in this box. They say you will only be able to do these type of roles once you get out of here, and that is not true. You can do anything. You said you might have to finance it yourself because the big studios obviously they want to put you in a box as well, but um you can do whatever your heart desires, whatever is possible, especially if you have faith, especially if you have the knowledge and the tribe and your backing of friends and the people that can help create it with you. You can do anything. And I just don't think we should limit ourselves just because we think that another form um does not give you the experience that you should have.
I do want to say something to that contrast. You said like the undergrad program kind of tried to limit you in a way.
Mhm,
And like when I came to this program, I came with the mindset of like I'm just an actor. But this program really expanded me outside of being an actor to more of an artist.
mhm,
And now here I am working on writing things and directing things and teaching students and also acting. So like I'm really grateful for that experience I'm having now because now I feel I'm way more open to taking different routes. So if I don't be an actor, but I end up being a director, I'm fine with that. Or if I'm just a playwright, I'm fine with that. Or if I'm a theater arts professor, I'm fine with that. And 5 years ago, that just wasn't my mindset and just wasn't the plan. But that this experience could have been great for that.
See,
So
that's great that the school is teaching you that
for
because
sure.
15 years ago, no, they were like, well, you can only do this role and that thing, and that's all you're going to do. And I was like, oh, okay.
I think there's still a lot of programs like that. I think coming to the MFA acting audition process, it was just like it's a really interesting thing because you go, I want to go to grad school, but I also want to be very specific about where I go because I know that there are programs at high levels that still exist that cookie cut you and put you in a box.
Mhm.
And that's what I didn't want for myself. And I was seeking a program that was going to allow me a little elbow room to try some other things. And I saw that possibility here at OSU, which is why I came here. And, much to Jalen's point, I feel like it's just broadened my creative horizons. I remember a friend of mine from undergrad, he asked me to compare the acting departments of both schools, which is a very like loaded question. And I said, let me tell you what I'm getting here that I didn't get from undergrad. I said, undergrad, I was pursuing acting, and here I am pursuing being a creative. And I'm still
Mhm.
doing acting, but I'm doing all these other things. And that I am eternally grateful for because I can't ever put that back,
Mhm.
right? It's like I have had my mind expanded and now I feel ready to go out in the world, and I feel safe going out into the world.
Mhm.
But if you were to go back into the school bubble and things like that, what would you be seeking out of a program?
I think now I will be seeking networking. I will be seeking trying to get
Mm.
connections in the larger scheme of the world. So yeah, I think though, because I've had so much experience now, I don't know that I would need I mean, you always need to learn, but I don't know if I would need the school environment to actually like span that part because I think you get a lot of it from the experience in the world. But I would go for the connections and the networking and trying to get my name out there, trying to meet people that can make connections for me. And then they think of me when they open a script like, oh, Alan would be great for that role. They think of me when they think of producing or directing. Oh, Alan would be great to really sink his teeth into that. That's what I would want if I went to grad school. But I would also have to research it more because it does sound great to have the education to be a creative, but also like I also get that here in Columbus as well. But I know I'm very grateful. I'm very privileged to also have like the contemporary take a chance on me when directing, and people allow me to be a part of their art. So it might be a different story than that, and I understand that because there are other people who want to be directors and they aren't given the chance. But I don't.
Seeking that connection is great, and even if you do have a cohort that's filled, but then you just find one good connection out of it,
Mhm.
that's still a win in my book. And I know this guy here, like we so many plans to do so many things creatively, and I know like for a fact, if I'm ever creating something down the line, I know I have a really good actor, really good work ethic person to be there on standby, and I think that's just the great part about it, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, we actually, funny enough, to be in our third year of this program, we just got paired together as scene partners for the very first time.
Really?
We
Yeah,
did it for three scenes back to back to back, but all the
that is true
semester,
too.
and we were just ripping from the
Yeah,
jump.
Good.
And it's just
yeah.
like, when you get in the room, it feels good. You know exactly what that other person's bringing to the table, but that person knows you and kind of knows your
Hmm.
personal playbook well. So they're going to pull new things out of you. And so,
What's the classic Key and Peele? It's the classic.
Mhm.
Is it Key and Peele? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the classic Wayans brothers. Like they all know their shtick, so it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just been wonderful. And again, it's just all in it just comes back to human connection and leading with your heart and just surrounding yourself with like-minded people, not like-minded people to be yes men,
Exactly.
but just like-minded people who at the end of the day have a similar heart to you. And would
Mhm.
you say coming back to Columbus, you say you've been here about 5 years
Five and a
back
half
in
years.
Columbus? Yeah. Would you say you found that coming back to Columbus?
Well, I found a community of people, of artists who want to make art that's elevated, who want to make art that changes people as when they come to the room, that want to make art that makes people think, makes people grow, and makes people want to be something more, do something different. And so that is the beautiful thing about this community nowadays. Although apparently they've been around, like the especially like like the Available Light Theater Company is an amazing theater company to that does this. But they've been around for like ever, which I didn't know. So I wish I would have known I was here years ago. But things like that are contemporary or shorter stage. These people are doing art that elevates the art in Columbus, I think, and I wish more people knew about it because it's still hard to sell tickets. So that's the one thing I wish we had a community here that cared more about the arts in a sense, like because like Cleveland or Cincinnati, like they have the Cleveland Playhouse, the Cincinnati
Mhm.
Playhouse, and so I wish that if it ever was my goal to manage a theater community or a theater complex or whatever, it would be to go out there, gather the money, gather the donors who can bring it back here, and really build a sufficient theater company that will last. Um, so, in saying that, yes, I mean, I found a community that definitely expands the artist's mind and helps the community see beauty in suffering, sees beauty in everything that they do. Um, but there's still so much more that needs to be done in this community that I've noticed.
Something I do want to talk about since we were talking about Columbus. I want to see maybe you can test to like finding success in cities that aren't necessarily considered hotspots. So like, is it possible to find really a great amount of success and sustain a career that's not a New York, that's not a LA, or maybe Atlanta now, Chicago, and things like that?
So yeah, I think it just depends on your definition of success, though.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think it
for
really
sure.
just depends on what you want to be. If you want to be a huge movie star and being in movies 24/7 as like the guest star or as like the lead, then no, you should not be in Columbus, Ohio,
Mm.
unfortunately. You should probably go to Atlanta. Or really, you should go to LA or New York and then get a huge agent who will help you book those things. But now, if you just want a few roles and bookings a year or every month or so, then yeah, you can be in Columbus. You just have to get an agent who is available in Chicago, an agent who's available in Atlanta, an agent who's available in New York as well. You can get, I know people who have like five different agents and they're booking constantly. They're driving everywhere. They're driving to Chicago. They're driving to wherever they need to drive to or flying constantly or going to New York for Broadway, whatever. But I think it just depends on the amount of work that you want to put in and the amount of work that you want. Like me, I'm thinking about getting an agent in Atlanta because I want to break into that market, but I don't want to move anywhere because I think because also everything's online now, everything's virtual. You can submit an audition, just do a tape, and you can do it. Now you need to be able to fly there for the callbacks, probably. But I think it just depends on your definition of success. It's like right now, I feel like I am successful in the Columbus market. Like I feel like I've been acting consistently, I've been directing consistently. So then what's next? You know, it's always what's next for me. But and I think that's why I want to get agents in Atlanta and say like, hey, how can I break into that film community out there? But still continue doing art here. But like, I really want to break into film. So now I'm setting goals and I'm setting things like, okay, so I need to just try to get my feelers of agents. I need to start seeing what is actually out there, so that I can start auditioning and just getting my face out there. Maybe I might need to fly to Atlanta for like a week or so and do something out there. But it just depends. Reaching out to my connects, my network. But again, my level of success though, I want more though. So I want to be on films. I want to be on TV shows. I want to do all these things. I don't know if I really want Broadway. I would never turn it down. That's
Right.
um, but I definitely would do it. I know Broadway now because I've lived in New York and I know people who have been on Broadway, and it's not like, oh my God, it's not like the best thing ever. Like you do your Broadway show, then like usually people will leave. It's like I've done it, it's good. But again, I would never turn it down. But also, I don't think I'm like an 8 show a week person. Like it's already hard doing
Yeah.
3 weeks of shows here in Columbus. And because I like to do different things. I'm more about the process anyway, than doing the shows. I love creating the characters and going on that journey and rehearsing and finding different things. But then doing the shows, it's like, oh, I know we have to do the show, but it's different. But yeah, no. I think it's your definition of success and what
Yeah,
do you want and how do you get there?
for sure.
That's great. And I mean, you talked about at the beginning of our conversation, sort of doing the work as a person. And now that you feel like you're in a good place and you're confident in who Alan Tyson is, dropping that first and last
I
name
know, right?
again, yeah, you're ready to set that path forward and you got your goals. And I think that's a really beautiful thing and a really wonderful place to leave the conversation as well. Thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
this
Thank
again.
you.
We're so grateful that you came into the space with us today. Is there anything else that you want the people to think about, people to know that you got coming up, or just any other nuggets of wisdom?
I mean, I think for me or for you guys and the community out there, I think you really just I would love to leave it with this question. You don't have to answer it or anything. But I think you just have to realize what do you want to leave this earth with? Like, is it your artistry or is it something else? Or is it more to your life than just this? And I think that is the big question as an artist that I wish that I would have answered when I was leaving college. Like, what do I want to leave this earth with? And then if I really thought about that honestly, and um, if I had the mindset to do that, I think my art would have deepened at that point. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not a fortune teller, but I think that is a huge question that what do I want to leave this earth with? And I have to honestly wake up every morning and think about that because if I don't, then I will get disconnected from what the real reasoning is because this world can destroy you if you don't stay true to yourself, to your heart, and to who you are as an artist, as a human, as a person. Because if I don't have that, then I might go down. I can't do that.